So I was playing Elden Ring last night, fighting that big dragon puppet guy, and a message appeared on screen saying the servers would be down from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. As soon as I seen it, I knew we was about to get a new patch. And yes, I woke up a little late today, but of course, there was a new patch waiting for me. Patch notes version 1.13. And in these patch notes, we got a bunch of PvP exclusive balance adjustments. For equipment, increased poise damage of normal attacks for the following types of weapons: light great swords, backhand blades, hand-to-hand arts, beast claws. Increased poise damage for dual-wielded attacks for the following types of weapons: straight swords, thrusting swords, curved swords, katanas, spears, whips, fists, claws. Increased poise damage of the claws of night throwing attacks, which I don't even know if that was a good idea, because every time I came across the claws of night, they bled me out like super quick. So I don't even know why they needed poise damage to begin with, to tell you the truth. Maybe it was just over-leveled phantom bleeding me out super quick, I don't know. But my experiences against it has always been pretty quick and over with, because, you know, I died. Decreased the backstab invulnerability window for the Fine Crucible Feather Talisman or the Talisman of all Crucibles when equipped. The Savage Lion Claw maybe got buffed or nerfed. The second hit of the follow-up attack is now easier to land, but decreased damage animation of the first attack against other players. That's a little weird, but I guess it needed it? Question mark. Raging Beast decreased invulnerability window against other players' attacks. Blind Spot has decreased invulnerability window against other players. And Palm Blast decreased poised amount generated when charging this skill. I tested it out and I really couldn't notice the difference. From what I heard, they patched the chainsaw glitch, but the weapon swap glitch, it still works. So you can put deathblight on magma blade still and pretty much insta-deathblight people. And the deathblight glitch still works with the poisonous mist, which you don't even have to have the stats for the poisonous perfume bottles, and you can still perform that glitch, which is kind of weird. Spells and incantations: Miriam's Vanishing decreased invulnerability window against other players' attacks. Knight's Lightning Spear increased attack power of the initial lightning spear, but decreased the attack power of the spells launched after the first one. And decreased poise damage of all spears generated by this spell. I'm kind of curious of where Miyazaki and the rest of the crew get their information about PvP, because the things that I think needed changed really don't get changed. And everybody else seems to have the same guidelines of what needs to be changed, but for some reason they never do. And I'm curious, is there like one player at Fromsoft that does specifically PvP and he jots down notes deciding what needs to be changed and runs it by the great Miyazaki and he deems if it's changeable or not? I'm really curious about that. Because it's like they don't listen to everybody else's feedback at all. They just fix some random stuff and throws it in a patch. I don't get it. General balance adjustments: increased damage animation of the light greatsword's charge attacks against enemies and other players. Increased the stats and statuses of following NPCs that can be summoned around some areas, like Needle Knight Lydia, Pureblood Knight Ansbach, and Theolir. Increase the attack power and damage negation of summoned spirits, including the Mimic tier, when the Revered Spirit Ash Blessing is at 5 or more. It's weird. It feels like I have to relearn PvP all over again. I have actually lost skill since Dark Souls 3, adjusting to Elden Ring's overpowered weapons and changes they make after every patch. It's like as soon as something is viable, it gets changed, and then I have to reorganize my whole inventory to figure out what is viable and what is not. In Invasions, it's quite weird because you got people swarming you, trying to, murder you, and you can't really defend yourself unless you're a top tier player. So anybody trying to invade for the first time isn't really gonna succeed, because there's so much overpowered weapons out there that can delete you as quickly as you came in. And when those overpowered weapons are combined with other overpowered weapons, with two people attacking at once, it's pretty hard to get away from it unless you know what you're doing. Myself, I haven't played PvP in a while because I've been doing PvE. But coming back to PvP, I gotta say, I'm really rusty and I die a lot. But for the people who are just starting getting into PvP and want to invade, they're having a tough time. I think the whole PvP side of things needed to be overhauled dramatically, at least to the damage side of things. Like if one attack can take out 70% of your health bar, there's something wrong there. I mean, half is the most one attack should be able to do. But that's just my thinking. I mean, you might think it's totally fine, but I think it's horseshite. Increase the attack power scaling when upgrading the following ornaments: the repeating crossbow, the spread crossbow, and rabbit cannon. The shield of night increased damage negation when blocking physical attacks, and Euphoria has actually got buffed. It takes less, attacks to actually be able to form the big attack. Increased holy damage when it has its luster restored, and decreased the number of attacks required to restore the weapon's luster, and increased the duration of the luster restoration effect. The golden lion shield increased guard strength. The golem fist added damage hitbox to the hand portion of the ranged fist attack. Smith script great hammer increased poise of the swing portion of throwing attacks. The spread crossbow decreased the generated status buildup when used with bolts that have status effects, so it's going to be harder to put people to sleep when using that crossbow, and it's going to be harder for them to put you to sleep. Ailment talisman: after the onset of a status ailment, the status buildup or duration of said ailment will now also be reduced immediately by a certain amount. So that's got a buff, I'm guessing. Increased focus resistance for the clarifying horn charm, the clarifying horn charm +1 and the +2. Savage lion claws increase attack power and poise damage the first attack. Swift slash reduce movement distance when using this skill, and has extended recovery time. But what I have seen, it's still pretty broken. It's pretty much the new Rivers of Blood. Overhead stance increased attack power against enemies. Aspects of the Crucible wings increase attack power, increase directional control, as well as the amount poise generated when using this skill. Light speed slash: the additional light attacks are now affected by the attack power and ability scaling of the weapon. Rancer slash: increase the attack power of the Vengeful Spirits, increase stamina damage against guardian enemies. Revenger's Blade: increased directional control for follow-up attacks after a strong attack. Horn Calling has increased attack power against enemies, and Horn Calling Storm increased the attack power against enemies. Weed Cutter has increased the speed of attacks, which you can pretty much poise through a lot of attacks using that Ash of War. In PvE it is super great, but in PvP, I mean, it's just like, it's manageable. It can be hard to get away from if you're caught up in it, but I've seen a lot of people roll out of it pretty easily. Romina's Purification increased poise value when using this skill. Red Bear Hunt increased the attack power and increased poise value when using this skill. Rancer Shot decreased the status build-up generation used with arrows that have status effects. Repeating Fire adjusted the attack power to compensate for increased in the weapon's damage. Feeble Lord's Frenzy Flame reduced frenzy status effect build-up against enemies, which I didn't really think it was that bad, but apparently some people did. Whoever Miyazaki's talking to on the other side of things, they really didn't like it. Revenge of the Night increased poise damage and attack power when using this skill immediately after guarding against the enemy's attack. The Glint Blade Trio has increased attack power. Blades of Stone adjusted attack power of the first, second, and third charge attacks. Increased attack power of the non-charge attack. Increased attack power of the first hit of the first charge attack. And reduced attack power of the second and third hits. Increased attack range and attack speed. Does that make sense? I don't even know what the Blades of Stone is, to tell you the truth, but apparently they did a little bit with that. Is that gravitational spell that you get from the guy on the hog? The Glintstone Nail has increased attack power and improved enemy tracking. Glintstone Nails increased attack power and improved enemy tracking. Impenetrable Thorns. All generated impenetrable thorns will now track enemies. Decreased attack power and poise. Decreased the hemorrhage status buildup and stamina damage against guardian enemies. So it's pretty much been nerfed. We don't have to worry about impenetrable thorns too much anymore, which it definitely needed a nerf. It should not be one-shotting people. Rings of Spectral Light increased the attack power frostbite status buildup, and Vortex of Putrescence increased attack power and frostbite buildup. The Minor Earth Tree increased HP recovery amount. Land of Shadow improved enemy tracking. The Spiral Incantations increase attack speed, which is going to be horrible if gank squads get a hold of it. FYI. Watchful Spirit improved enemy tracking, which is probably the most useless spell in the game. I haven't tried it, so maybe it will work in PvP as well. You have to let me know in the comments below on that one. The tornado will be less likely to disappear due to a collision with the terrain. The Rain of Fire increased attack power, reduced the interval between each hit. So apparently the Rain of Fire does cause a little damage now, but isn't really nothing to look at. The Roar of Rugella increased poise damage and attack power. It needed that because I really wanted to use that spell, but I couldn't because it was just dog shite. The Furious Blade of Ansbach increased attack power. It needs bleed buildup as well. I hope they added that. Rotten Butterflies increased Scarlet Rot status buildup, reduced the interval between damage ticks, increased attack range. I don't know. I mean, I think they need to get a new inside man, to tell you the truth, because whoever's, giving them advice about PvP doesn't really know what is going on. Or at least it seems like that. I could be totally wrong. Maybe he knows everything about PvP, but they definitely need like a suggestion box or something. I don't know, man. It seems like I gotta relearn PvP every single time they put out a new patch. Once I get used to one weapon being overpowered, it is no longer overpowered and a different one is. Well, that's it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And until next time, my dudes, have fun.
Did you enjoy this video? Consider subscribing to the main channel at Mr. Nobody Elden Souls, where it's more focused on invading. Or the second channel at Nobody Elden Things, where its focus is on helping and will be the main hub for invading for dummies. Subscribe to both and I promise you will not be disappointed. Thank you for watching, my tarnished, and we will see you next time.
Like and subscribe or I'll deathblight you in your sleep. This message has been approved by the Mayor of Froggytown.